Hello again, everyone. This is Moth with the second entry in my Type 5s and 10s companion series, where I focus on a couple different topics that didn't make it into the main series. Today I'm taking another look at George Carlin, and specifically, I want to unpack his impact on current day comedy offerings. I touched on it a bit here and there throughout the main video, but I want to be a bit more direct here. So let's just jump right into this topic that I've broken down into 3 parts. Part 1. A matter of dedication. Comedy is said to be a low art form by many of its practitioners and others in the entertainment industry. High art and low art as concepts are not supposed to be a commentary on the quality of an art piece, but rather is more about who is meant to access the work. High art is for high society. Paintings, opera, and classical music are all considered high art. Not because they are intrinsically better aesthetically, sonically, or visually, but because there is usually a monetary barrier to entry to enjoy the art. It's not always reflected in the price of admission, but other more indirect considerations like dress code, scheduling of events, and the location within a city that either performance or displays are held helps to indicate who they want to invite in or keep out. Conversely, low art is the art of the people. Just about any art form that could be accessed by any and everyone is considered low art. Again, the intention is not for this to be a marker of quality or taste, but due to class divides and the arrogance from both rich folks and wannabe rich folks, it ends up serving as one anyways. So many things can be considered low art that the list is non-exhaustive. TV, film, although some films can be high art in certain contexts, pop music, sports, video games, non-classical literature, the list goes on. But what you will notice about that list is that if comedy is not at the absolute bottom, it's dangling just above it. And most comedians know this going into the field. What makes people laugh can vary from person to person, but comedians tend to agree that there are certain kinds of laughter they don't want. Within the already unappreciated art form, there is always what's called low comedy. Fart humor, poop jokes, body humor, physical comedy, unless you can master it like Jim Carrey or Will Ferrell, misogynistic humor, race humor, punching down. These are all considered either hacky or just straight up unfunny. Don't get me wrong, the great comics always sprinkle a little of this material in throughout a set, but you can't build a good hour or even a good 15 to 30 minutes of material just in lowbrow humor unless you are a master or just have some very unique and interesting ways to spin those topics. I was listening to Eddie Murphy's Raw the other day, and the part that stuck out to me was when he was doing an impression of Richard Pryor and making poop jokes. What made it funny was not talking about taking a shit. What made it funny was the absurdity of talking about these things as Richard Pryor, copying his mannerisms and his delivery down to a T for a topic he wouldn't bother with or at least hadn't talked about since becoming a star. Cheap laughs don't pay the rent unless you're Dane Cook or Andrew Dice Clay. But looking back at both those guys' careers in hindsight, that shit doesn't last long enough unless you use the lowbrow humor in interesting and exciting ways. Carlin combined the two. He used the topics and mannerisms from low comedy and combined it with the wit, wordplay, storytelling, and social commentary of high comedy. I wouldn't say he elevated low comedy because that's kind of an oxymoron, but he found ways to flip these topics into something even funnier by using just a little brain power and constantly working on his material. You could probably make almost, heavy emphasis on almost any topic funny if you work hard at it and listen to your audience. Many modern comics, with some exceptions, more than anything else, are fucking lazy. They see comedy as the poor man's throne, and they just throw out whatever decrees they fancy that day. And before people blame social media and short-form content like TikTok and the dearly departed Vine, even if a skit is just 15 seconds long, it still takes skill to make it funny in that short amount of time, and it takes at least a brief written draft up. I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of these guys and girls either barely write and plot out their material or if they even write down their jokes at all. The way that people kind of just ramble and search for jokes out of thin air can be painful to watch and leads to inconsistent performances and relying on crutch, culture war topics of race and gender to thrive. They think that because they're not valued the way that they want to be, or because a cheap laugh to them sounds like any other, you don't really have to put all that much effort into it and can just go up there and ramble. Don't get me wrong, there is space for ranting and raving. Chris Rock, a Carlin acolyte, is known to ad-lib and come up with jokes mid-routine when he's working on a new hour, but you'll notice that he doesn't do that for the final production. Bill Burr, another self-proclaimed Carlin-influenced comic, clearly takes his craft seriously, and his routines are very well rehearsed and executed, and he even finds ways for his delivery to still sound natural, even when he's obviously following a staging that he planned out beforehand. His recent bullshit in Saudi Arabia besides, Burr is one of the few people who continues to put in the work, and while his hypocrisy with taking blood money is abhorrent, at least from the perspective of being a skilled comic and honing a craft, he's brilliant. Hacks watched Carlin make inflammatory statements and turn them into laughs on stage throughout the 90s and took the wrong lesson from it. What made people laugh was the combination of his honesty, his aggressive delivery, his timing, his body movement, his tonal shifts, and his stage presence and presentation. He wasn't just yelling obscenities into a crowded room. George was setting a tone and building a narrative. He was skilled and seasoned, and he worked on his craft until the day he died. He had fun doing other things on the side like acting and voice work, but his wife and artistic expression was comedy, first and last. He jumped off the traditional entertainer path a long time ago during his life and was dedicated to what many call a low art form, but that's what made him great. Thank you for watching. This has been another Type 5s and 10s video from me, Moth. Stay tuned for part 2 of the mini-series within a series. Goodbye.